if you're actually looking for a job in the US, one of the main questions that are going to be asked when you're going through the application process is, do you have authorization to work in the US? So if a spouse of an E2 visa holder does have that authorization, then yes, that person can check off, I do, without feeling that they're fibbing about it, right? So because the reality is today there's a lot of companies that they don't want to necessarily go through the immigration process, right?
Yeah.
So even for Canadians, where a TN status would be a relatively easy pathway to get work authorization, sometimes the companies are just not interested. They look at it as a sponsorship. And they have strict rules against it. So having a spouse that's already on an E2, hopefully the spouse is being able to generate a decent income. Then yes, the spouse who is getting work authorization is able to do so and are able to apply for jobs and indicate that yeah, nothing else is needed. I'm perfectly legal to work in the U.S. And by the way, this was a change, and I know you're aware of it. Prior to 2021, I think it was in October of 2021, there was although spouses of E2 visa holders were always able to get the work authorization, there was a different process involved with that, whereby they had to apply for an actual EAD, employment authorization document, and that could take several months. So
Oh
although
yeah,
it
I
was,
remember back 2016, 17, clients taking 4, 6 months
oh
to be able
yes,
to
yes,
work.
sometimes even
Where if you're
longer.
making 5K, 10K a month, that's a lot of money that you're
Exactly.
losing out
Yeah.
on.
So I remember having clients that were making arrangements whereby they did start the E2 business, but they didn't fully sort of, move to the US just because the spouse was not able to get work authorization at that point. But now it is incident to status, meaning upon entry as a E2 spouse, they do get the abbreviation of E2S for spouse, and that individual will be able to get the work authorization without having to apply for anything additional.
And Fadi, since we last had you on, I think it was the still like the COVID era or near post COVID era.
Right.
I think it was taking like 6 to 8 months to get the interview in Canada, UK, pretty similar processing times. But now it looks like pretty much across the board, maybe with an exception being Istanbul, Turkey, people are getting E2 visa interviews very fast, and the process can move quite quickly after you finalize the investment.
That's correct. So it could be a matter of 2 to 3 months before the individual is able to actually attend the interview at the consulate. Once they do attend the interview, they are, leaving their passport there and getting their visas issued, usually within a couple of weeks. So it is a much more streamlined process. But we do find that sometimes, depending on, I mean, it could be depending on a variety of different factors, but sometimes we do see a spike of applications, and then all of a sudden the applications are pushed back, and so. But to anticipate, a relatively quick turnaround period versus other visa types, it is definitely a really good way to go about getting an actual work authorization, getting a visa for the U.S. if that's the pathway that the individual chooses.